thank you, Marine Money, for inviting Alphaliner this morning so that we can share a little bit of our findings and give a quick update on the container shipping market. In particular, focus is the liner outlook, the liner fleet outlook for the next few years. So at Alphaliner, just a brief introduction. At Alphaliner, we follow closely the evolutions of the container shipping market and provide those findings through our online database and insight through a few of our publications. So, sorry, the green button, yeah? Oh, okay. Yeah. So for this morning, we'll go through 3 quick segments, which is the first one will be taking a look at the snapshot of the liner sector today, especially after the past 3 years, which is quite extraordinary. And of course, with the massive new buildings looming over the sectors, we'll take a look at the recent ordering activities that leads to this order book, and of course, more importantly, the time frame at which this delivery will reach the market. And lastly, we'll tackle the questions, are we back into overcapacity? So, before 2020, the liner sector has seen a consistent decline on its order book for many, many years. It's only in late 2020 where bullish environment for carriers combined with the drive for green shipping, where we see again a high level of ordering activities that continues until today, in fact. And all of this ordering activity results in a massive order book of almost 8 million TEUs. Now, to put this figure into context, this order book is actually almost 30% of the entire available tonnage in the market today, which is about 28 million TEUs. And out of these 28 million TEUs, we can see that the big 10 carriers are controlling almost 85% of the entire liner fleet. So the market is highly consolidated. At this moment, further consolidations between the big 10 carriers themselves are quite unlikely. If there are further M&As happening, that would be more likely on the smaller regional players. Now, as you can see, MSC, that take lead position from Maersk last year, has built a significant lead. And they will continue to build this lead considering their massive order book, which is the largest among the other carriers. And to further illustrate how big the order of MSC is, it would be like MSC adding another mid-tier top 10 carriers like Evergreen or Ocean Network Express to its already massive fleet. So in theory, by 2025, MSC would have at its disposal more than 6 million TEU slots capacity, which is the largest ever for a single carrier. This might pose a challenge if the market has not picked up by then. However, it's also might come in handy considering that the 2M alliance between MSC and Maersk will be officially ended in 2025. Now, the mainstream media so far have only focused on the hundreds of billions that the shipping lines are making in the past few years. However, if you take a step back and look further back in time, we can clearly see that these past 3 years are an exceptional years. I mean, the sector has never seen anything like this before, and I don't think we expect something similar in the near future. Now, this period has peaked in early 2022, where some carriers are making margins of more than 60%. But since then, it has declined rapidly, and since approaching the pre-2020 levels. And considering the poor performance during this summer seasons, and of course, next month start the slack season period, we expect this downward curve to continue further. Now, the one thing that I want us to keep in mind is that the cost structures that the carriers are facing are significantly different compared to, let's say, 5 years ago. And as we move forward, as we approach the goal of carbon neutrality, this will continue to be pushed forward, to be pushed upward, I mean, yeah. So the liner sector, sooner or later, will need to find a new normal, which should be higher than before, simply to continue to operate. So this is a summary of the points I made earlier. And then after taking a look at the snapshot, let's take a look at the new building pipelines now. So the liner sector is cyclical in nature with ups and downs. However, the global fleet itself has been consistent and continue to grow at an average rate of about 1 million TEUs per year. Now, this figure will be interesting to compare at a later slide, where we can see the delivery of the ships in the next few years to see how many access the industry will need to receive. Now, if we compare the latest peak that we have compared to the previous 2007, in terms of ratios, we are only halfway there, but that's mainly because the total fleet that we have now is much bigger than back in 2007, where it's only about 10 million TEUs. But if you see the red curves, we can clearly see that in terms of nominal TEUs, we have surpassed the previous peak by more than 1 million TEUs. Now, this latest ordering activities started in late 2020 when the freight rate started to surge upwards, and it has continued ever since until mid-2022 when the market collapsed. Now, interestingly, the ship owners and carriers have only taken a short pause and continue their ordering some more. Even until today, we still hear carriers are approaching or in talks with shipyards and look for a new set of container ships. So we don't expect the ordering activities to stop anytime soon. And green shipping is an important component in part of this order book. As we can see, LNG and methanol are the mainstream choice for carriers at this stage, at this early stage of decarbonization. And we can already see a massive jump in the proportions of the LNG and methanol ships being ordered. In 2021, it only took up about a quarter of the entire order that year, while this year it took up more than 75%. That signals to us that carriers will sooner than later start to compete with their green fleet profile to attract more carbon-conscious customers that provides a premium in their freight rate. And out of the 8 million TEUs order book that I mentioned earlier, about 80% of them is already earmarked by the top 10 carriers themselves. So this proves to us that this order book are driven mainly by the shipping lines themselves instead of the non-operating owners. Compare that to about, let's say, 10 years ago, it would be about half and half between the ship owners and the shipping lines. Now, after looking at the order book, let's see the delivery pipeline itself. So the order book has started to be delivered from the start of the year until August. We already received about 1+ million TEUs, and we still have another 1 million TEUs to go until the end of the year. And next year, of course, we have a massive 3 million TEUs to be absorbed by the market itself. So if we take a look at these two short span of years, there would be more than 5 million TEUs to be absorbed by the market. And if you compare that with the average 1 million TEU growth that the market has seen so far in the past 20 years, we would have an excess of 3 million TEUs that the market needs to be absorbed. So even during normal times, this would be a challenge to be accepted by the carriers. So after looking at how much tonnage there will be coming to the market, let's now answer the question, are we back into offer capacity? So far, the carriers themselves has been managing quite well their excess capacity compared to the past. Even with the additional 1 million TEUs from the start of this year, they have managed, even though the freight rates still continue to drop, but at least they have managed not to idle any of their excess tonnage. And one of the tools is slow steaming. With slow steaming, of course, they also being able to comply the older ships with the EEXI and CII regulations. Now, this is the chart of the average speed of the three main east-west trades. As we can see, container shipping, even before 2020, has been slowly slowing down its ships. And now it has actually reached a low of about 15 knots. That actually raises the questions whether how much more excess tonnage that this slow steaming can absorb. In our expert opinion, I don't think there will be limited potentials in the near future by how much it can be absorbed. Now, in that case, let's take a look at the other options, a more permanent one, which is recycling of the older, less efficient ships. The average lifespan of a container ship is about 20-25 years old. So in the market currently, there are about 2 to 3 million TEUs that would be available that has reached their so-called retirement age. However, there are limitations to how much and how fast or how quickly can we get rid of this tonnage. To put it simply, it's a mismatch between the ship size of the much older ones that we need to get rid of and the much bigger ones that is coming into the market. So for example, for any new Megamax coming into the market, we will need to get rid of 5 ships of 5,000 TEUs. So with that in mind, in the past 2 years, obviously the market has not been scrapping anything at all, almost zero. And this year, we only see the market, at least until September, only demolish about 100 TEUs. That is, to be honest, quite low compared to what we expected before, which is about 300,000 TEUs or more. And of course, we expect the market to pick up the scrapping rate next year, especially with the incoming of 3 million TEUs. So with that, we can conclude easily because with the slow steaming having reached its potential sooner, at least in the near future, and the scrapping only will cover some limits, some part of the incoming tonnage, the market in the next few years will likely to face a chronic overcapacity, and then carriers will have to once more idle or lay up their excess tonnage. And before I leave you, I leave you with this something to ponder. So even with this massive order book and the deteriorating market, we still hear carriers continue to order some more vessels. Why so? Do they know something that we don't? But if it's due to green shipping, it will be, in the long run, it might be okay. But however, what will happen to all the conventional ships, especially the younger ones that has not reached their retirement age? Yep, and that concludes my presentation this morning. Thank you very much.